Morning. It's Tuesday, 16th of December, and the Gaming Geezer here, and I would like to expand on some of the remarks I made yesterday in the rules as written versus ruling over rules. And I would like to give input from a perspective of my other gaming hobby, historical miniatures gaming. And as you can see from the boxes of figures around me, yes, I do that. Boy, I've actually been doing that since I think around 1971, 72. But one of the things that I would like to say is you can really see impacts and such of the RAW versus ROR in historical miniatures gaming. Now, I have figures from various periods in history. I have rule sets that would allow me on the tabletop to command everything from an army, yes, an army, all the way down to a squad. And I like them all. They have their own fascinations for me. I have soldiers from the Dark Ages. I have Roman legionnaires. I have World War I and World War II. Have American Civil War figures. Yeah, I've been doing this a long time. Twice a year, I go to a convention here in Florida, in Orlando, historical miniatures. And in fact, next spring, I will be there running a Dark Ages Saga Dark Ages tournament. Second time I've done this. Okay, enough of the, just to let you know how I come from. It is interesting to note that one of the principles that I have read, and they're in any number of miniatures rules, is that the referee, the name for dungeon master, I guess, and although I prefer God, game operations director, but that's just me, always states the rulings of the referee supersede the rules in the book. Now, I have seen this used and used it a number of times to, just because you see something happening on the gaming table. It's like, no, he doesn't have a line of sight to that unit. And you look at the two guys, say, I'm sorry, but he can't fire. He didn't have a real line of sight. Most of the time, I see the responses are usually, oh, okay. And we go on from there. I actually saw one guy set a laser pointer / rangefinder down, aimed it along the barrel, booped the dot, which was minusculely off the target. He goes, damn, you're right. And then we got right on playing. It has always been an unwritten rule that if you disagree with the game master or the referee's decision, there's two ways you resolve it. Either A, you and the other guy roll a die and the highest die wins the decision, or B, you just get on with it. You state your opposition to it, and you say, well, I don't agree with you. And then after the game, you and the referee can sit there and go over what you didn't agree with. That's pretty much how it's done. That's, ruling over rules. But it doesn't happen that often because as I get into the second part, RAW, rules as written. One of the things, and this is especially true in conventions where you are gaming with people you don't know. You've just met them 5 minutes ago when you walked up to the table. That's why, and a lot of times, at all times for a convention game, I prefer to just do rules as written rather than try to bring in a bunch of house rules and things like that, attempts like that. And it works because, well, let me give you an example. One of the best games out there for colonial skirmishing is called The Sword and the Flame. I think this is its 35th year of publication. It is very widely played. It's got an entire convention devoted to it. It takes place in November in Louisiana. And the great part about The Sword and the Flame is I've used it for a number of different time periods, not just the colonial period of, I think, 1879 to 1889 or something like that. It is what almost amounts to a universal language. And that's how I look at it. When you use ROR, you're basically speaking a universal language. You know, unless, of course, you've got the newbies who have never even seen the book or the rules. But in this case, if you have some old hands there, you say, well, we're just going to play it out of the book. And everybody goes, oh, okay. And they all hold up their rather tattered copies of The Sword and the Flame. And you go, well, okay. All is good. Everybody knows what to do. In fact, I have run games where they have been fairly large games. And, I just like, okay, you guys down at the end of the table, okay, go ahead and make your moves. You know how to resolve this, and they do. The players wind up helping you run the game, and it makes the game go a lot faster. And that, to me, is the value of ROR. It is a universal language. Everybody's read Dungeons and Dragons. I know I've gone through 5th edition. I've got all 3 now, as I've said before. I've got the Holy Trinity. Praise Jews. Little shout out there. But I think rules as written, and I can see the value of it now. Rules as written allows you and your players to have a universal reference framework in which you can explore the systems, the genre, and the world. And in historical miniatures, for example, rules as written allows you and the other players to explore that specific period in history as interpreted through these rules. And that's a very good thing. Now, ruling over rules is generally what I do when we're playing a private game. When we're over my house, in my garage, because we don't have basements here in Florida. In my garage, we'll almost instantly rule or go, well, yeah, you do this, or, oh, that's okay, you can. Oh, you forgot to move? Okay, no problem, go ahead and bring them on up, type thing. And that's all right, too. So I could see the good points of both. But I have also seen the downside. Yes, there is a downside. And the downside is that you get the house rules, that the ruling over rules, to where some people go to such extremes they basically gut the game. There's it's like, well, what about this? Oh, I got rid of that. What about that? Oh, I got rid of that. I've done this. Mostly, though, it's done when I find the background of a game, the game world, is really interesting to me, but the game system sucks rock salt. I really don't like it. And to tell you the truth, this is what I did was the first edition of Space 1889. We played the original rules for a while, and I was like, yeah, these are kind of schlebby. So we went to GURPS. I know Anthony at this point is now covering his head. Poor Runeslinger. I'm sorry. Did not mean to use that 4-letter word, plural. But honestly, so we switched systems. I guess you could call that the ultimate ruling over rules. And all went well then. The original Twilight 2000 the original one that came out in 1984, for which I have written a number of modules, published them, was the same thing. The first one, that rule system was like, really? Seriously? Are you kidding me? So we kind of flipped and flopped. We grabbed the rule system out of another game called Delta Force, which I thought was, and everybody had a good time. So yeah, the ultimate ruling over rules. And the same thing, if you get into a time period in historical miniatures you really like, oh, I like these rules. Or then you get into, come to think of it, no, I don't. They're too this, or they're too that, or they're too whatever. I have the equivalent of this. I have at this point for my Dark Ages. It's 1, 2. I've got at least 4 sets of rules that I use. And I have my whole theory about rules as recipes. I'll do that in a later video. But I always see, at least for historical miniatures, rules are recipes. And it depends what kind of meal you want as to what sort of level you want to play at. But anyway, I have seen both of the RAW and the ROR in action. And you really have to, it's kind of like, that old song, Kenny Rogers song, The Gambler, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. It's kind of that way with rules too. If you find a set that works for you, go with it. And speaking of rules, just to let everybody know, I am working my way through 7th edition Call of Cthulhu. I have the PDFs of both the Big Book and the Player's Guide, and I'm working my way through them, and perhaps we'll be able to get something out after the first of the year, and then there'll be a whole take on rules. So that's going to do it. Everybody have a good day, and again, happy holidays. Take care, folks, and remember, have fun playing.